It's so nice to be with you all today. Chanel, I want to start by saying thank you so much for sharing your powerful message. You've opened our eyes, our minds, and our hearts. Like so many others in Maine, I grew up in a small rural community where there was virtually no racial diversity. Much of my career, I simply didn't know what I didn't know. About 6 years ago, as a still relatively new college president, I grew to understand that my abject ignorance on this topic was just unconscionable and utterly inexcusable. I owed it to the faculty, the staff, and the students that I served to actively seek to understand what I didn't know. My true education in diversity, equity, and inclusion began, and I still have a lot to learn, and I grow every day. So I want to thank you, Chanel, for helping me today to grow just a little bit more and to move in the right direction. I also want to thank the Maine Development Foundation. What a joy and an honor to be with you to share the work of the Governor's Economic Recovery Committee. MDF's leadership and economic development programs introduced me to every corner of this state, to our historic and emerging industries, and perhaps most importantly, to the state's most dynamic and inspirational leaders. It has shaped my career and my life, and it certainly helped prepare me for the challenge of helping to lead through this recovery initiative. Most profoundly for me was the experience of Leadership Maine. It gave me my voice, it gave me courage, my sense that I might have something to offer to the state that I loved, and it gave me the most amazing, supportive networks of colleagues and friends. Some of you may know that Leadership Maine was created by a set of architects who had a vision that if they could bring together 1,000 Maine leaders and provide them with a powerful experience and immersion into Maine's economy, they could together move mountains and transform our state in unimaginable ways. With Leadership Maine and ICL joining forces, they have touched the lives and helped to train up close to 2,000 leaders in our state. They are totally unstoppable and can certainly make any dream a reality. MDF has engaged us, connected us, trained us, empowered us, and emboldened us. And I'm here to tell you today that never has our state needed us more. The public discourse, the civil unrest, profound threat of the pandemic, and the severe economic disruption will test every ounce of our resolve. It's almost as if all 42 years of MDF's history have prepared us all for this moment in time. We can lead, we must lead. Maine needs the unique experience, wisdom, creativity, and passion of every single person in this room and beyond today. We can do this together, but we must keep our eyes on the prize. And for me, the prize is, and always has been, the vision of the Maine Economic Growth Council, a high quality of life for all Maine people. And I would repeat, all Maine people. This has to work for everyone. It was a nice Sunday afternoon in late April, and as I was sitting at my kitchen table contemplating the joys of starting my 7th week in quarantine, or maybe house arrest, the phone rang, and it was Governor Mills. She was calling to ask if I might be willing to partner with this guy, Josh Broder, who I'd heard of but didn't know, and lead this new committee that she wanted to form. She wanted to gather a team, maybe 20, 25 leaders, to pull together a plan for getting Maine's economy back on a recovery track from survive to thrive. Now, well, in my mind, My mind was screaming, no, holy cow, I haven't even figured out how on earth I'm going to reopen a college during a pandemic. But at the same time, I heard my lips saying, why, yes, Governor, I'd be happy to. Over the next 8 to 10 days, which were a complete blur, we're talking about a very short period of time, the governor personally invited about 45 people to join this committee. We organized this large group into 6 subcommittees, each representing the primary sectors of our economy: education and workforce, healthcare, childcare, and nonprofits, hospitality, retail, and tourism, innovation, infrastructure, manufacturing, and natural resources. Josh and I chose, this was perhaps our best decision, we chose 6 dynamic leaders who were colleagues and friends to chair these subcommittees. And I say they were friends because I distinctly remember telling Betsy Beeman when she asked me, how much of a time commitment is this going to be? And I very optimistically said, not to worry. We're going to meet every week for about an hour on Fridays, and then you'll have a subcommittee meeting. Maybe that's an hour. And Betsy has strongly reminded me it was much more than a couple hours a week. In fact, it felt like it was 24/7. On the eve of the press conference, I thought to myself, I probably ought to let my board know that I took on this little side gig for the governor. It was definitely one of those leadership moments where it's better to ask forgiveness than to ask permission. Our charge was fairly straightforward. Over the next 6 months, we were to develop a set of robust policy recommendations to bridge this gap from our current situation where we needed to stabilize the economy and build a bridge back to the state's 10-year economic development strategy, the very strategy that had been put together by thousands of Maine people over a year's time and had just been released about 6 months earlier. Build an economic bridge in 6 months. How hard could that be? We broke our work into 2 major segments. First, stabilize and support. We had to get a report out July 15th. And then we would turn to sustain and grow with a report due December 15th. The first 2 months of our work would be spent assessing the current situation of each major sector. Just how bad was it? Meeting with experts in each field, developing, then refining recommendations that would position our industries to survive what was going on, that would position the state to compete for federal stimulus dollars, and to advise the administration on the critical steps that would need to be taken to stabilize the situation. On July 15th, we published our report and recommended that the governor use CARES Act monies to immediately invest $1.1 billion in Maine's struggling economy. $497 million in supporting Maine people, our #1 priority. Public health, child care, reopening the pre-K through 12 system, reopening higher ed, housing, immigrant workers. $430 million in stabilizing Maine's employers through employer grants, innovation capital, workforce development, and $165 million in broadband expansion. So to recap, in 2 months' time, 8 small weeks, we formed a committee of 45 individuals. We created our mission and vision from whole cloth. We worked tirelessly for 8 weeks and unanimously coalesced around a set of recommendations that the governor and her administration immediately invest $1.1 billion. That was bold. That took people aback. Even the governor audibly gasped when we shared our recommendations, particularly the price tag. So why? Why would we put forward something so audacious? Because in 8 short weeks, we realized Maine's people were hurting and they were scared. Maine's businesses and organizations were in a tailspin, and Maine's foundational institutions were absolutely stymied. Our entire state needed help, and we needed it now. This was not a time for half measures. We needed action immediately if we were going to live to fight another day as a state. The governor and her team rose to that challenge, and they very quickly took action. They've already committed several $100 million to reopening our pre-K-12 system, childcare, housing, and the offering of economic recovery grants for Maine's businesses and nonprofits. These were all critical investments to stabilize and secure our economic base so that we could turn our attention towards the real mission to sustain and grow our economy. Now it was time to get back to building that bridge, to take us safely and expediently from mere survival to thriving once again, and to get us back on track towards that 10-year economic development strategy. For the second phase of our work, we kept the 6 sectoral subcommittees in place. We built on the knowledge, experience, passion, and working relationships that they had developed within their subcommittees. And we asked them to take a fresh look and to organize their work in a new framework by looking at it through the lens of talent, innovation, and infrastructure investments that would be needed to truly revive their industries and move them towards true recovery. From mid-July to mid-September, our 6 teams developed recommendations for their sectors in these 3 broad theme areas that fully align with the 10-year strategy. Right now, the ERC is pivoting once again into our 3rd and final phase. Members of the original 6 subcommittees have migrated into 3 larger subcommittees. The focus of the 3 committees' work will now shift to developing recommendations specifically in the areas of talent and workforce, innovation and entrepreneurship, and infrastructure, including physical, financial, and social. These 3 themes map directly into the 7 strategies of the long-term economic development plan. Each of these new subcommittees has a very broad definition of their theme. Each have been charged with first thinking very big and being very bold as they imagine the vast possibilities for our future. Then they will be asked to do the hard work of honing those ideas down to a relatively small few, and those recommendations will go into our December report to the governor. The final and critically important step of all of our recommendations, they will all be examined through the lens of diversity, equity, and inclusion so that we can truly fully live into the vision of the Maine Economic Growth Council and ensure a high quality of life for all Maine people. I want to leave you with this story, which is a true story. On August 1st, 2017, the Nafis family was headed to Cape May on the Jersey Shore to do some shopping and to go out to eat. The husband was driving. His wife was up in the front seat with him. His daughter and her friend were in the back seat. He had precious cargo. They paid the $1.50 toll and proceeded to cross the bridge. But this bridge was a drawbridge, and the operator hadn't seen them. The bridge started to open. The driver had only a brief moment to decide his path forward. He could slam on the brakes and maybe try to back up, but that would likely lead to either his car being thrown backwards and landing on the roof, upside down, or perhaps worse, the car plunging into the water. Or he could accelerate and try to launch the car safely to the other side. For some reason, the driver found the courage to step on the gas. They jumped the span. They landed on the other side. He and his precious cargo landed safely, miraculously only suffering minor bumps and bruises. The car was a little less fortunate. It incurred about $10,000 in damages. But my point is this: our economy is in an extremely dangerous position. Trying to stop or turn back to the way it used to be is not an option. We must summon the courage to accelerate towards our future, a future that will look and feel different. We will, without a doubt, suffer some bumps and bruises along the way. But I believe with all my heart that we can and will land safely on the other side. Congratulations and thanks to all of today's award winners, and my heartfelt thanks to each and every one of you for all that you do for the state that we love. Thank you.